What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Living in Morris County. Today I'm going to be taking you through the pros and cons of living in Randolph, New Jersey. Maybe you're like my wife and I, who were looking in Morris Township, Morristown, Chester, Mendham, and couldn't quite afford the type of house that we wanted, and we ended up in Randolph and couldn't have been happier. So make sure you stay tuned through the rest of the video to hear about what we love and maybe the couple things that we might change about living in Randolph to make sure that it's a good fit for you. So my name is Kevin Saum. I'm a licensed realtor in the state of New Jersey, and in these videos I tell you all about what it's like to live in Morris County. I'm going through all the towns, taking you through the streets, the parks, the restaurants, the events, anything you can imagine. I'm trying to let you know what it's like to live here. So I'm going to be honest, I had a really hard time coming up with cons for living in Randolph. I did come up with a few, and I asked around with people that lived here for, 20 plus years, 30 years, grew up here, went to the schools here, and I've been living here for a couple years, so I feel like I have some perspective to add. But I would say, the first I'm going to start off with is the school system. It's an A-rated school system, great athletic programs, which we were rivals with growing up when I was in Long Valley, so that's why I was a little hesitant to move here, but I'm just definitely glad that we did. And there's a little thing to note about the school systems. When you're looking at school rankings, it's not always just because the district as a whole is an A rating. It doesn't mean that the elementary school is an A, the middle school is an A, the high school is an A. High school might be an A, elementary schools might be something different. So just be cognizant of that when you're researching that kind of stuff. The other thing that's important for good school systems is resale value. So even if you don't have kids, when you're purchasing a home, it's good to have a good school system because it's going to be easier to sell your home if that's what you choose to do down the road. Now, the next pro that I would say, and if you've been following me on social media at all, you kind of know that, what I love most about living in Randolph is the parks and recreation and the trail system. So that's why I'm actually sitting here right now. I'm at Brundage Park right by the pond. Couldn't say more about the parks and rec here. It's well maintained, great fields, not crowded really ever. There's really something here for everyone, like I've mentioned in previous videos. And it's probably my most favorite thing about living here is the ability to be active and to live an active lifestyle with the whole family. So I come here every single day, walk my dog with my son strapped to my chest like Carlos from The Hangover. Carlos? And that's how we start every day. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to walk out my door, get to the trails, and hit up Brundage Park. And the coolest thing about the trails is that they link. It's about 16 miles worth of trails that link up all neighborhoods, schools, and parks in the town that you can. So we can walk to 2 different parks just from the trails that are connected in our neighborhood. Another really cool neighborhood that if something comes on the market, if you love being active, is the Saum Lake area. So that's a private lake community that has an HOA fee, but it's got a lake. I just showed a house a couple weeks ago that had a canal in the back that you're able to pop a canoe in there or a kayak, head right to the lake. They've got swim lessons. They have happy hours for the adults, all scheduled through the HOA. So super cool community. And of course, the trails hook up right up to that community. You can hit up the trails, take your bike, take the kids, whatever you want to do. It's an awesome place to live for a very active person. And also Saum Lake is right on the border of Morris Township. So if you're one of those people that are kind of like looking at Morristown and not maybe not find something that you like, Saum Lake area, that community is probably a money spot for you. You're probably thinking, oh, so many pros. Okay, well, I'm going to throw a con at you. I would say almost everyone that I talk to, the only con they could really come up with about living in Randolph or growing up in Randolph is that it doesn't really have a centralized downtown. So it's not really walkable. It's very big and expansive, but it's not the kind of place that you can walk, grab a coffee, and kind of hit some shops. It just doesn't really exist like that. You kind of got to drive somewhere. The caveat to that is that there really is never any traffic. So where in Morristown, if you're going through the thick of town, it might take you 15, 20, 30, sometimes 30 minutes to just get to the other side of town just because of all the traffic and congestion. So the lack of not having a walkable downtown, you kind of make up for it by having absolutely no traffic. And if you really want that, you could drive 15 minutes to Morristown, park on the outskirts, and then walk into town. It's really not a big deal. My wife and I do it all the time. We still go to restaurants there and really have a really great time. So, con for some, but pro for others. And with the proximity to Morristown, you also have proximity to the trains. So really living in Randolph, you're 15-20 minutes away from any kind of train, whether it be Denville, Morris Plains, Morristown, Convent Station. You're kind of pushing it, and then from that train you're probably looking at like hour to an hour and 20 minute train ride to New York City. So if that suits your needs, maybe you're working hybrid in your work schedule, you're commuting to the city only maybe a couple times a day, Randolph is still a viable option if you're okay driving 15 minutes to the next train station. There's also some great restaurants in Randolph. You got Verona's, which is probably my favorite. Fettuccine Bolognese. The bread pudding there is awesome. You got Rosie's. You've got Krabby's if you're into the sports bar scene. They got a cool garage door that opens up on a nice day, so you're almost like inside but outside. It's great kind of feel right off of Route 10. They got great wings. You also have the Randolph Diner for late night, so if that's something important to you, they're open till like 2 a.m. I think every single day. So you have a late night option, even out here in Randolph, away from kind of the bar scene in Morristown. And just to keep it real, throw in a couple more cons. I would say that the grocery store options in Randolph are kind of a little bit dated. They're not the modern grocery stores that have the big buffets of pre-prepared food and the extensive self-checkout areas. But I ended up driving like 15 minutes to Wegmans in Parsippany. It's right down Route 10. It's like honestly one of the greatest grocery stores I think I've ever seen. They have all those prepared foods, and the best part about it is they have a little app where you can actually scan all of your items, and you're kind of like tallying up your bill as you go, and then you literally just go to the self-checkout at the end, scan the little barcode, all of the stuff that you had scanned onto your phone, then uploads onto the register, and then you're pretty much pay and go. And I set myself up. They have these little box bags, so I put my boxes in the cart, just scan, put all my stuff in there, so you're not unloading, reloading, unloading, and it's actually classic. Every time I leave, I'm just like laughing at people like scanning all of their items one by one, putting it back in their bag because it's the easiest thing ever. Wegmans app, way to go. As I've mentioned, I'm obviously big into physical activity. I'm a big cyclist, and living in Randolph, lots of hills. So if you're also a cyclist who likes to ride your bike a lot, you better like hills or start training a little bit more because there's a lot of them around here. But great roads. I feel safe all the time, while I'm riding here. So, maybe a con for some, but maybe a pro for others. So my absolute favorite part about living in Randolph is the parks, the rec, and the physical activity options that are available. So I've already mentioned the Randolph Trails, the Freedom Park, Brundage Park. You've got Aspen Ice, you've got Indoor Sports Pavilion, you've got a climbing center, you've got a tennis center. There's endless options to be physically active and plenty of activities to bring your kids to and your whole family to. So, overall, I'm so glad that I ended up moving to Randolph. I've been extremely happy with my experience to this point. So if you have any other questions about living in Randolph, thinking about moving to Randolph, make sure that you either send me an email, shoot me a text at the number below. You can give me a call, and I'd be glad to help you out.